Hello and welcome to another episode of For Zion's Sake, the CUFI UK podcast. My name is Alex and I'm joined here by Alastair.
Hello.
And this is our 100th episode, and this week we will be looking at the lies and distortions in the media. We're going to be looking at different headlines, lots of different stories, from Greta to Doha to everything else in between, where we look at how the media is distorting reality with its words in its headlines.
That's right, and that includes the so-called body of experts on genocide, which it turns out were not experts at all, but this didn't stop the BBC from citing them in some very damaging headlines against Israel. Plus, we give an update on the petition and campaign regarding saying no to UK recognising a Palestinian state. Plus, please let us know what you think about any of the topics covered in this podcast by leaving your thoughts in the comments below. So, Alex, this is the 100th episode of For Zion's Sake. Can you believe it?
Nope.
I mean, it doesn't seem like yesterday since we started the very first episode. And we would like to thank everyone that has supported and continue to support CUFI UK in all of our various activities. And thank you for sticking with us here on this podcast, which when we started, Alex, we felt compelled to do it because we wanted to get the truth about Israel and standing with the Jewish people out there on a different platform, a different medium. And of course, we are doing so in various other methods as well, including our print media, our Torch magazine, our emails, website, social media, etc. And this is another way of doing that. And when you think about everything which has happened, over the course of the 100 episodes, it is a different world, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot has changed since we started the podcast. But yeah, and it's one of those things where it's almost like we never run out of anything to say because there's always something going on in Israel.
Yeah.
And actually for our 100th episode, I think there's more going on in the last couple of weeks than has been going on in a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, even though we're celebrating this milestone, there are milestones which are before us, which are not cause for celebration. They're cause for concern. They're cause for us to, be quite somber about, because here we are. We this week have surpassed 700 days since the hostages have been held captive in Gaza. We're coming up to almost 2 years since the October the 7th massacre. And we are right now, have just passed a milestone, the 9th of September, earlier this week, which was the date that the UK government set for as an ultimatum for recognising a Palestinian state. And here we are, as we do this podcast, we are none the wiser as to whether or not the UK has actually made that decision. What has happened in the last few days is that there's been a change of the cabinet. It was triggered by Angela Rayner's resignation. That's tongue twister. Which of course has resulted in Yvette Cooper becoming the new Foreign Secretary and David Lammy stepping aside from that post. So there's been changes and there's a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot going on. But we must continue to pray and pray that the UK will not recognise a Palestinian state, will not reward Hamas terrorism. And we want to thank everybody that signed the petition, over 12,000 that signed the petition, No State for Jew Hate. And we're very pleased to inform you that CUFI now delivered that petition to the UK government. Yvette Cooper has now inherited that petition from David Lammy. Yeah. And let's pray that that will be effective, but more so the prayers and the solidarity that and the voice that we have made in unison opposing this move, which would be a disastrous move for our nation, not least because we will be effectively turning our back on our greatest ally in the Middle East, the state of Israel, and going against what the Bible says regarding the land of Israel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's exciting stuff from our perspective in terms of, being able to put together a petition and get that into the hands of the government. But at the same time, we have to be quite realistic and say, the way the government is at the moment, it's not looking good. And we were sort of discussing actually the other day, what would be the thing that would stop this happening? And ultimately, we concluded that it would be an act of God that would stop it from happening, because unfortunately, the Labour government is very adamant that they want to recognise a Palestinian state. They put it in their what's the document, the mandate that they have going into government as an irrevocable right of the Palestinian people. And so,
I think last week when we were talking, I said two things which could stop it: a thunderbolt, a lightning bolt, or a collapse of government.
Right.
And actually, we did have a collapse of the cabinet almost.
Yeah.
But
nothing that would stop this.
Not quite on the scale of something that's stopping it. But we have to believe that this is not just this is a spiritual battle, and it's one of strongholds of principalities and powers, and we must continue to believe in faith that the miraculous can happen. But also, there's that scripture in Galatians 6 which says, "Having done all to stand therefore."
Yeah.
So in other words, having done and I know this is having a spiritual application in terms of the armor of God, but I actually think this is a spiritual matter. And once we have done everything that we can, both practically, spiritually, after we've said every prayer and supplication, after we've made every move in faith, after we've spoken out, after we've prayed, after we've done everything in our capacity, the one thing that is required of us, and that is to remain standing.
Yeah.
And even if the UK government does go ahead and make this decision, we must be seen to be standing.
Yeah.
We must be seen to be standing because we are accountable before God. We need to be seen to be standing because we are not prepared to walk in the way of sinners or sit in the seat of the scornful. We've made a decision to reject what the UK government and what those who oppose Israel are perpetuating. We've refused to do that, and we want to stand with the Jewish community, and we want to stand for what is right. And even if everyone else has turned their back on Israel, we want to be still standing. Definitely. Once we have done all, stay standing.
Exactly.
So I would encourage everyone that even if you think, well, I'm not sure if this petition is actually going to do anything, or I'm not really sure if there's anything we can do now, my MP isn't listening to me, or the UK has already made its decision and the country is already going, in a direction which is against the Bible, against God. Yes, it might be. But once we have done all we can, still stand.
Yep.
And that's what we're called to do, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to believe that our actions, have an impact in some way. And we know we're not going to win every battle. We know we're not going to win everyone over to our side, but we have to still stand up for what we believe in, which is the truth.
Absolutely.
And, we know from Zechariah 12 verse 3, it talks about, on that day when all nations of the earth are gathered against her, meaning Israel, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves. This is God speaking. We know that all nations, that includes the UK, that includes America, it's all nations, right? And so this isn't taking us by surprise. This isn't something we weren't aware of. It's not like we thought we could, change what God has said in the Bible, but it is actually, we always have to do what is right in God's eyes and always stand up against evil. We know that there are certain aspects where evil will prevail on the earth before Jesus returns, but that doesn't mean we don't stand up against evil. And so, it's one of those things, because some people say, what's the point in all this? What's the point in trying to stand against it when God said it's going to happen? Well, I think
there's always a faithful remnant.
Yes.
And the Bible is full of those who have faithfully remained.
Yeah.
And we have to believe that what God is doing through the ministry of CUFI and through all those who are standing with Israel, preaching Israel through the churches, that there is a remnant that is basically choosing what God says in his word.
Yeah, and I think as well, Israel, God's commitment to Israel is a promise and a reassurance that we can have as Christians that God will be faithful to us.
Yes.
Right? And a lot of Christians who are into replacement theology, they misunderstand this situation a little bit, because they sort of say, well, Israel's rejected God, so therefore, or Israel's not recognizing Jesus as Messiah, so therefore God's rejected them. Well, no, God has not rejected who he foreknew. But it goes back to our sort of situation as well. And I think if we reject the Bible, we can't be faithful witnesses on the earth. And I think, one thing with the church at the moment, a lot of the church, which is into replacement theology, is a bad testimony, has a bad testimony to the world.
Yes.
Because they're conforming to the world, not challenging the world. And actually, the evangelists of our time are the ones challenging the norms, challenging the narratives, not giving in to Satan's plans on all the different issues, not just Israel, but lots of issues. Yes. And I personally think evangelism, without, if we're trying to spread the gospel, which is what the Great Commission is for all Christians, we will not succeed in that if we are not preaching the truth of God's word, which includes Israel.
Yeah.
And so, we can't be faithful witnesses to God. We can't carry out the Great Commission if we're literally rejecting half
people
the Bible.
whom he foreknew.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a very important part, because it actually, I know it's Pastor Hagee who says the Jewish people don't need Christianity to explain their existence, but Christianity needs Judaism to explain its existence. In other words, we owe a debt of gratitude to the Jewish people, and our understanding of Israel actually helps us understand the Christian faith.
Yeah.
And but there was one, just going back to the petition.
Yeah.
Also, we have to believe that seeds are planted, because even if this current government does decide to recognize a Palestinian state, it is quite possible that a future government will overturn it.
Yeah.
That's why I think it could happen, because it's a possibility, because and that's why we have to stay standing. Throughout the Bible, God always facilitates or provides an opportunity for people to return and to do a U-turn. And that is illustrated best actually through his relationship and dealings with the nation of Israel.
Yeah.
And it says in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land.
Mm.
Now that is a promise pertaining specifically to the nation of Israel, and I know that sometimes it's taken in context and used for other reasons, but that is the direct, immediate application. It's talking about Israel.
Yeah.
But this is a biblical kingdom principle.
Yep.
That God provides people, on all people, with an opportunity to do a U-turn and get back to him. And when we get back to him, he brings restoration into our lives. He brings restoration into our circumstances. And I do believe that as a nation, that if we do get back to the ancient past, but get back to, the biblical values, the Judeo-Christian values of our nation, and we turn to him, and we really turn to him, then he will bless this nation, and he will bring a healing and a restoration to our land. And so I think the door will still remain ajar, even if we were to turn our back on Israel, because if another government does come in and say that was a bad decision, we're going to retract it and we're going to get right. God would welcome that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So we have to pray.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And with that scripture you mentioned, it's like, yes, that's definitely talking about Israel. But as Christians, we're grafted in.
Yes.
We're his people too. And I do believe there are times, especially with, looking back at like World War II, we were a Christian nation. The king called us to pray to God, as his people, the church, and God was on our side against evil and adversity. And the only way for us to fix all the different problems, obviously, CUFI is focused on Israel, so we're not talking about all the issues with the UK, but there is a lot of issues which I'm sure our audience understands. There's a lot of issues in the UK that we need to resolve, and the only way we can resolve them is getting back to God.
Yes.
The nation needs to turn back to God. People need to get back to church. The UK needs to become a Christian nation again to have any hope of survival.
But God will not bless this nation if we curse the nation of Israel.
Yeah, exactly.
Because every nation, every entity, every civilization, every empire, every people group that has cursed Israel and the Jewish people are no longer in existence.
Yeah.
And we're at a crossroads here in Great Britain, because if we curse the nation of Israel, we turn our back, if the UK becomes intolerable for the Jewish people to be able to live safely and securely, and we let down the Jewish people, then I'm afraid to say it's not going to end well.
Exactly.
But actually, we can bring healing to this land by doing what is right, and by blessing Israel and the Jewish people. And it's not because out of some selfish motivation, because we want just the blessing. It's because actually our heart and our love for Israel and the Jewish people means that we want to bless Israel and the Jewish people, and we want God to be honoured and glorified.
Exactly, yeah. Because there's a common sort of misconception or sort of accusation thrown at us that we use Israel as like a lucky talisman or a lucky rabbit's foot, that we, we're only being nice to Israel because we want God to bless us. No, we love Israel because God loves Israel, and God has put it into our hearts to love the things that God loves.
Yes.
And it's as simple as that. We bless Israel not because of any come back onto us. We bless Israel because we love Israel just as God loves Israel.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. So, yeah.
Well, one good piece of information which did come from the UK Foreign Office in the past week, this was before David Lammy was replaced by Yvette Cooper. He announced that the UK government does not believe that the UK is committing genocide.
That Israel, you mean? The UK doesn't believe it's committed genocide. Wait,
you're going to laugh at this.
Right.
That's actually what the article says.
Oh, really? So which newspaper is this?
This is the Jewish Chronicle.
Oh, Jewish Chronicle, okay.
The UK government does not believe that the UK has committed genocide in Gaza.
I think every nation on earth might believe they're not committing genocide in Gaza.
This is, So, okay, let's edit this, okay?
Yeah.
And on behalf of the Jewish Chronicle, bless them, we love the Jewish Chronicle, but they've got it.
Yep,
they've got it wrong in this instance. No, good news. The UK is not committing genocide in Gaza. That's the first piece of good news. The second is that Israel is not committing genocide in Gaza, and that's the main point.
Yes.
That David Lammy wrote, and this is what he said. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this because actually he did have some quite strong words towards Israel. But he said, as per the Genocide Convention, the crime of genocide occurs only where there is specific, quote, intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. And he said, the government has not concluded that Israel is acting with that intent.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew that already.
Yeah.
I think most people listening and watching knew that already, because Israel is not committing genocide.
Exactly.
And yet that is the phrase which is repeated over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And unquestioned. And so, I think we welcome that clarification.
Definitely.
For the benefit of those who need to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's the thing. The genocide accusation is one that's being used. It's been weaponized to demonize Israel, to make the public see Israel as a genocidal regime.
Yes.
It is all part of the lies and deceptions. Satan is the father of lies. You know, they're trying to deceive the world to hate Israel. Part of the reason why the world is turning against Israel is because of this, the lies and deceptions, the distortion against Israel. And so we just need to point out here, this is, you know, UK experts at the top of, you know, their fields, from the Foreign Office, probably, you know, different agencies that have given information to put together this report so that, you know, the top law in our land, or at least the Foreign Secretary, is saying our source, like basically we as a government, as all our institutions, do not believe Israel's committing genocide. And it should be pointed out that the Foreign Office in the UK is anti-Israel.
Yes.
They are not pro-Israel. This is why we've got an uphill battle here with this petition.
Yeah.
Because actually, even when pro-Israel, quote-unquote pro-Israel governments were in the UK, they were battling with the Foreign Office, because the Foreign Office is predominantly, it's not made up of elected officials, and it is predominantly anti-Israel.
Yes.
So if an anti-Israel group, such as the Foreign Office, is saying, actually, Israel's not committing genocide, it's actually quite a credible refute or a rebuttal of the genocide lie.
Well, talking about credibility, this headline is from the BBC News,
right?
The 1st of September. Israel committing genocide in Gaza, world's leading experts say.
World's leading experts.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of a number of mainstream news articles which sort of lead with the statement and then add in the headline who's saying it. And you would think the world leading experts are a credible source. Israel committing genocide in Gaza. That's the first thing that most people reading that news article on social media or in the paper or wherever would have seen. So this is our public broadcaster, funded by you and I. Well, I.
Comment.
But, you know, this is a public broadcaster, a reliable, reputable, allegedly, source. And yet, this is... Do you want to know who the group of experts were? They are, the International Association of Genocide Scholars. The BBC article says a resolution passed by the IAGS states that Israel's conduct meets the legal definition as laid out in the UN Convention on Genocide. And it says that out of 500 members, 28% took part in the vote, and 86% of those who voted support the resolution. So this is a body of 500 members, experts, allegedly. And 28% of them took part in a vote.
Yeah.
Now, wait for this, because this is crazy. It costs as little as $30 to sign up to become an expert in this membership body.
Yeah.
After this news broke, some quite witty thinking pro-Israel people, not
us, no,
because we're not witty,
not quick thinking either.
Decided to try and register to become a member, and did so immediately, to the point that they had to close off membership.
Yeah,
it was so easy to register. Now, not only that, but wait for this, 80 of the listed scholars were from Iraq.
There you go.
Okay. 5 of them, all from the same family, it would seem, all with the surname Mahmoud.
Right.
Who are all based in Iraq. And yes, as you can see, quite clearly, a distortion of the term genocide experts.
Right. Yeah. Unless you're talking about, you know, are they, you know, former members of ISIS or something? You know, they've got some expertise in genocide.
Well, I don't know. But also around, of the 500 members at the time that were eligible to vote, only 28% were able to vote, and there were some apparently who were credible people who were actually members of this organization who said that they were not allowed to vote.
Yeah, the whole thing is a complete farce. And, you know, first of all, the organization itself is not credible.
Yeah.
The people who are voting on it are not credible.
Yeah.
And the media reporting it is not credible.
We wouldn't be even talking about it.
Exactly.
If the BBC and other institutions hadn't actually ran a report to say that Israel's committed genocide in Gaza, world leading experts say.
Yeah. And the thing is, we've been doing social media, we've been writing articles and stuff for a decade now. We know that so many people will read a headline and go straight to the comments. They'll be flicking through the headlines, and that's all they will read. And the BBC is not stupid. They know exactly what they are doing. They're doing it to deceive. And so, you know, we have to call this out because Israel is basically getting destroyed. Its reputation is getting destroyed because of clever little tweaks to headlines where they are reporting the truth there, the BBC, in terms of a genocide expert group has said that Israel's committing genocide, but they are twisting it just slightly to deceive people. I don't know if I made myself clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got The Guardian, Israel committing genocide in Gaza, world's top scholars on genocide say. We've got Channel 4, Israel's committed genocide in Gaza, says world leading, etc. We've got
world top scholars. Even that,
I know,
is like who decides who is a world top scholar?
I know. We've got the Financial Times, Israel committing genocide in Gaza, say scholars. We've got ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, saying leading scholars say Israel committing genocide in Gaza. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah, they're all saying the same thing. This goes back to, I know this is a slightly separate issue, but the 6 people who were killed in Jerusalem the other day.
Yes.
The headlines were
Which I'm glad you brought that up, because we need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, definitely. So this was a Hamas attack. 2 people from the West Bank, or Judea and Samaria as we call it. 2 Palestinian terrorists came into Israeli territory, went onto a bus, opened fire, killed 6 people, wounded others. Hamas claimed it. It was a Hamas terror attack against civilians. It's what Hamas does best, unfortunately. Again, the headlines were distorted. The headlines all said, from the BBC, Guardian, Sky News, Independent, Reuters. I read a number of them, and they all said 4 dead, or at the time it was 4 dead before they discovered it was 6. 4 dead in shooting in Jerusalem. The wording there didn't mention that it was Israelis that were dead. It didn't mention that it was Palestinians who had murdered them. It was painting the picture of more people dead in Jerusalem, because the image they're trying to paint is war in Israel, war in Gaza, Jerusalem. They're using key words to get people's attention, so that someone flicking through, reading only the headline will see, oh look, Israel's killed 4 more people.
Yes,
they do this all the time. Whereas when it's the other way around, 4 dead in Gaza, they don't say that. They say Israel kills 4 people in Gaza. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
says Hamas.
Yes.
You know, or whatever the quote is. They are twisting the headlines, twisting the words. They are saying the actual facts, but they're twisting it in a way which deceives the audience.
Yeah, there's such a lot of deception.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of another story last week as well. This was of a little boy in Gaza who a couple of weeks ago was reported to have been killed by the IDF. 8-year-old Abd al-Rahim Mohammed Hamdan, nicknamed Aboud. And he was, as I say, reportedly shot and killed. And in fact, there was a former worker of the GHF, which is the humanitarian aid organization which Israel and America have sponsored in Gaza.
Yeah.
And he shared his testimony as a disillusioned member of that organization, and went off to the press,
made his money,
whistleblowing, and was reportedly that he'd witnessed this boy being shot, etc., etc. And of course, the very left wing anti-Israel media loves a whistleblower.
Yeah.
That has formerly been part of the IDF or whatsoever. Well, guess what? Last week, the little boy was on a Fox News interview alive, alongside his mother, being interviewed about having been, wait for this, rescued by the IDF because his life was in danger. And the mother, who was so thankful that his little boy and her had been saved, you couldn't make it up.
No.
But actually, the
true.
anti-Israel media did actually make it up.
Yeah.
But this is terrible. This was false information, which has already been spread.
Yep.
And it says this. It says, under heavy security measures, the child, his mother, and additional family members were evacuated from Gaza to a secure location. And the foundation chairman issued a statement saying, "We are overjoyed and deeply relieved that Aboud is safe and that this story ends in hope. The outcome was never guaranteed, and it's thanks to the courage and persistence of our team of American heroes. While this story ends happily, it could have ended in tragedy. Too many people, including the press and civil society, were quick to spread unverified claims without asking the most basic questions."
Yeah.
Aboud and his mother have been transferred to a safe place, and we believe they are on their way to a new life. And the mother acknowledged, "My son and I have suffered greatly, but we are grateful to God. I thank everyone who helped and stood by us."
Yeah.
That's what she told the Fox News.
Yeah. And this is the thing, it's going back to like journalistic integrity. Like, we don't see that anymore. Journalism is dead. There is no question about it. Well, I say that. There are some very good journalists who are out there, like Melanie Phillips and so forth, who are out there dispelling the lies. But the thing is, there's so much basic information that people could be asking, but we're in a world now, and it's, I'm not sure when it started, but a lot of the news media just regurgitates the same stories. It's almost like copying each other's work and just saying the same thing without doing any research of their own, because the aim for the media is not actually to give accurate information. It's to get the story out there as quick as possible, to get as many people as possible to read it so that they can get as much advertising money as possible. It's it's just a big game of getting money, and the most outlandish headlines get the most views. And so they're playing this game of just trying to get people to grab their attention for a few minutes, but the damage that is causing is extremely bad. And it's the same with Bible teaching, where they're just scratching the surface and getting sort of a snippet of information rather than delving deep, getting into the subject. Yeah, it's like pick and mix sort of thing, rather than deep dives into the truth and finding out the truth. And I think when it comes to these headlines, and even with that guy, like, his story was unverifiable until literally the person he claimed was killed turned up, for himself, sort of thing. But again, we hear this all the time, especially about GHF, where Hamas says 20 people have been killed by Israel as they went to get food. And the narrative they're painting is that Israel is almost using these food distribution sites as a way to lure in innocent Palestinians, and then they just shoot them dead as they approach. It is ridiculous. What's really happening is Israel is feeding its enemy more than any other nation has ever fed its enemy.
Yep.
They are doing unprecedented levels of humanitarian aid distribution compared to any other country on earth in history of warfare. No other country has fed their enemy civilian population as much as Israel has. Not only that, as Israel's doing this, who doesn't want this to succeed? Well, Hamas.
Yep.
Because Hamas, its livelihood comes from exploiting the Palestinian people. And if the Palestinian people are getting free food, it means that Hamas's markets are not being, they're not buying flour for £100 a bag or whatever, because literally Hamas, before Israel was doing the GHF food distribution with America, Gaza was controlling the aid going in through the UN's aid outlets, to the point where 80%, according to the UN, 80% of aid was being stolen by Hamas. Hamas was then selling it to its own people, exploiting its own people, controlling its own people. So when GHF came in with Israel and said, right, we're now giving free food through different distribution methods and we're going to secure these areas, what did Hamas want to do? It wanted to shut down GHF. Yeah. So it's had a massive propaganda campaign against GHF. I wouldn't be surprised if some money from maybe Qatar or somewhere else came through for this man who was spreading the lies, because all they had to do was convince one American who had been serving in Gaza to say some lies.
Yeah.
And he got a good payday.
Yep.
And what does that do? All the left-wing media sources.
Yeah. And they lap it up.
Lap it up, promote
because
what
they're waiting for it. They're wanting it.
Exactly. And yet we've seen verifiable evidence that Hamas attacks GHF workers. They kidnapped workers. They in Gaza. There's times where they have opened fire on people going to get aid. Israel has had to fight off Hamas terrorists actually at aid points because Hamas is trying to kill people there. There is so much evidence in Israel's favor, and yet all we hear from the media is, 10 Palestinians dead, GHF, Israel responsible.
Yeah.
And it just paints the picture again that Israel's...
It's like a modern-day blood libel.
Yeah, it is. The whole thing is, yeah.
This whole fake starvation story. Hamas, as you rightly say, they do not want Palestinian civilians fed.
Yeah.
They do not care for those people.
Yep.
They are, and the UN also. I mean, the UN, I think, is also against this initiative.
Yep.
Because they don't have the control. And that's actually probably a good thing now because people are being fed.
Yeah. I know, and that's there's a story I read actually about a lady in Gaza who's, a Palestinian in Gaza who has helped run her own food distribution site away from Hamas. She's like on Hamas's hit list to be killed because she's feeding starving Palestinians. Yeah. I mean, Hamas doesn't want, just think about it. In this tiny area that the Gaza Strip is, there is more underground tunnels than the London Underground.
Yep.
And it's a much smaller area than where the London Underground is located, situated in London.
Yeah.
It's Hamas has used every single building that it could as a protection for its weapons and for its tunnels and for its terrorists. So Hamas has used the people of Gaza as human shields more effectively than any other terror group on earth. They have almost like mastered the art of using Palestinians as human shields. And yet, despite all this, the world still looks at it and thinks that Hamas is a good force that's protecting the Palestinians and Israel's the evil ones, when Israel has literally gone out of its way to avoid Palestinian deaths, gone out of its way to feed Palestinians, and gone out of its way to target Hamas directly.
Yes.
It's all, when we look at this, we're often, we obviously read comments, we see things going on. There's so many false accusations against people like us where, you can tell that the people who are making the comments just have no idea what they're talking about, because you and I are quite well versed in, the anti-Israel narrative as well as the pro-Israel narrative. We're well versed in understanding what is happening on the ground.
Yes.
We've got a lot of information at our fingertips. And the amount of false accusations we have against us is just mind-boggling, really.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
And also there are various tactics to be aware of, because I have been personally challenged with the accusation, do you support genocide then?
Mm.
Or you support genocide? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
I don't support genocide.
I know.
And the follow-on from that, and you have to do this pretty quickly, is to say, but Israel is not committing genocide.
Exactly.
Because what they try to do is that they try to create a loop where then you are, by default, condemning Israel's actions, because you're admitting to the fact that you don't approve of, quote, Israel's genocide.
Yeah.
So you have to very quickly define what genocide actually is and why Israel is not committing genocide.
Yeah, exactly.
And as Christians, categorically, and for the benefit of anyone who might be listening and watching this and deciding right now to leave a comment attacking us, is that we do not support genocide because we are Christians. We do not, we do not condone murder, but
No.
Israel is not committing genocide.
Exactly.
It does not have the intent, desire, or will to wipe out a people group.
Yeah.
Even to try and wipe out people. That is not their intent. And they are doing everything within their capacity to try and avoid the killing of civilians. Warfare, sadly, by just the very simple characteristic of warfare, means that civilians do sadly die as a result.
Yeah.
But Israel is not deliberately targeting civilians.
Yep.
And this is the message we have to hit home time and time again.
Yeah.
And if you believe the figures which are circulating in the anti-Israel media and even in the mainstream media, then I'm afraid to say that you have been lied to. And if you haven't even questioned those figures, if you've just accepted those on face value and you haven't actually looked properly, then I'm afraid to say you're being deceived.
Definitely. And I think, obviously, when people look at the Gaza situation, they see, it's sad seeing children being killed. It's sad seeing families being ripped apart. It's sad seeing even just, the devastation of the buildings and all the rest of it. It's a sad situation. It is not good for the people of Gaza to be living there, because it's a tough thing. Statistics show, though, reports show from polling, that actually over half of Gazans still want the war to continue.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Like, even though they're living in harsh conditions, like if they were really being genocided, they wouldn't be saying, "Oh yeah, let's continue with this war."
No.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like
and Israel could. I mean, Israel has a capability potentially to wipe out.
Yeah, Netanyahu
Gaza.
said it. He said if we wanted to wipe out
Yeah.
Gaza, it would have been wiped out in a couple of days. Like, the thing is as well, like, if you're looking at this from a Christian perspective, you're saying, right, we want to preserve life, we don't like the killing of civilians, all these things. That's fair enough. Like, no one likes seeing Palestinians be killed. And we have massive compassion, by the way, for the Palestinians. What does Gaza need more than anything? Jesus.
Yes.
Right? Hamas needs to go. The church needs to go in.
I'll tell you what, a lot of churches that have been sold hook, line, and sinker on the Palestinianization of the church are not talking about meeting the spiritual needs of the people of Gaza. They really aren't.
No, they're actually aligning
Israel is.
Exactly, and they're also aligning Christianity with Islam, which is a no-no.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. And as well, if you really do care about people dying, you need to open your eyes, because there are other wars going on, other conflicts going on in the world, which are far worse than what's happening in Gaza, and yet no one will even tell you.
No.
And yet we get wall-to-wall coverage of the Israel-Hamas conflict, or the Gaza conflict. For example, Sudan, since 2023, so 2 years ago when the war in Gaza started, there has been over 600,000 people die through war and famine, majority of them civilians. So 10 times more than even the worst statistic of Gaza.
Yeah.
10 times more people dead. Most people don't even know that war's even going on.
No.
So if you really care about people dying
and
you're only focusing on Gaza, it's not because you care about people dying. It's because you've either been hoodwinked by the anti-Israel propaganda, or you hate Jews. It's like one of the two options. And by the way, being hoodwinked, like, I have sympathy for the people who are hoodwinked. We know people who are Christians who love God, but they have a misunderstanding about Israel. And I do think that's very sad. I do think it does actually limit their understanding of the nature of God, and understanding God's plans and purposes for the times we live in. And like I said earlier in the podcast, I do think when there is a disconnect from Israel, there is a disconnect from our from our ability to actually preach the gospel and to preach God's word. And Remini, who's one of the directors of CUFI, she always says, Jesus is not coming back for a bride that is disconnected from Israel. We have to understand that God's people is Israel and the church, and we have to have a complete understanding of that. And unfortunately, the majority of the church is anti-Israel, and they are being deceived by the lies of Satan. And unfortunately, some of them, what normally happens when we see it with the anti-Israel movement within the church, is it actually goes beyond being just anti-Israel and beyond being about, we care about the Palestinians. It actually goes into things which are much darker, which are not good. And we have to challenge it, because I honestly think there's a lot of people out there who are professing Christians who actually don't know God.
You said something earlier about how it's okay. It's okay for Christians to have a perspective of, should Israel do this or should Israel do that, when it comes to its military choices and decisions and everything like that. It's okay to have that discussion. But if you're having that discussion from the from a viewpoint that Israel is inherently evil, then actually we need to have a discussion about that. But Israel has tough choices. It has tough decisions to have to make. And we pray as Christians, we should be praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yeah, definitely.
And we want peace. We want to see Israel. Look, Israel did not start this war.
Yeah.
And more I'm seeing the very fact that Hamas started this war to really be fading into the background.
Yeah.
There was an article which the supporter sent us from a particular magazine, and I read it today, and the article, I'll just put it up here, is from a magazine called Bookseller, and the article states that October marks 2 years since Israel began its war in Gaza. And then it goes on to give recommendations for various very anti-Israel biased book titles, including one which is Gaza, the Story of a Genocide, etc., etc. So you could guess the tone of that article.
Yeah.
But it was the very opening which struck me more so than some of the deep, dark book titles that it was unsurprisingly endorsing. October marks 2 years since Israel began its war in Gaza. No, October marks 2 years since Hamas invaded Israel and massacred over 2,000 men, women and children, including young people, at a open-air party where innocent people were tortured, raped, killed, set on fire, and I don't know how much more I can describe how tragic and atrocious, barbaric and evil those actions were by Hamas, and then took over 250 Israelis hostage, separated from their families, some of them killed immediately by Hamas, others kept in terror tunnels, starved, tortured, some dying in that process, a few still remain living, others released as part of exchanges with prisoners. But the Israeli people have suffered unimaginable suffering. Yeah. And yet the world is largely silent. And yet here we are saying it's 2 months since Israel started a war.
2 years.
2 years, since Israel started a war. That, for me, just illustrates the mindset of what has willfully processed over the course of the 2 years. Yeah. And Israel has not forgotten. We should not forget that was the very reason. I spoke to someone a few weeks ago who I was having a debate with about the war in Gaza. And I reminded that person of everything Hamas had committed on October the 7th. And then I asked the question, do you think, therefore, that Israel should have taken military action against Hamas in Gaza? And they looked at me and they said no. And the moment they said no, their face almost changed in appearance, as if knowingly having said something that they maybe hadn't completely thought through.
Yeah. They sort of betrayed themselves.
Almost betrayed themselves, but they couldn't help saying it because that question was sort of cut through their preconceived ideas of everything that they thought about Israel's actions. And yet they said no, and it was almost like they begrudgingly said no because they knew the answer could have been, well, I can understand why they did. And they then could have said anything. They could have said anything else after that.
Yeah.
But no. And that is the heart of this issue.
Yeah.
Is that for many people who are against Israel's actions today, they might not admit this, but actually they might be ashamed to realize that they do not condemn, like they should, Hamas's actions on October the 7th.
Exactly. And yeah, you obviously told me that story outside of off-camera sort of thing as well. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of people haven't really thought through all the different sort of nuances of this conflict. Like, because you can actually be pro-Israel, pro-Zionist in the biblical sense, but not agree with the extent of the war. There is ways in which you can have an opinion on this war which don't sort of betray yourself or don't betray your humanity in a way. Because actually, she could have said that, well, yes, they could have taken military action, but they could have just done a few airstrikes and stopped.
There could have been.
She could have said anything.
A legitimate.
But to say no,
there could have been a valid counter argument in terms of the extent or anything like that.
But instead of just no,
said no.
Yeah.
And I just paused.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So, and I just clarified. So you said Israel should have done nothing. Yeah. I said, okay. Because I was sort of like
letting her work it out in her own
just
brain,
work that out. Just think what you just said, because that would have meant that a couple of things. I think this is important to spell out. Hamas would have had how many hostages was it originally?
251 or something.
251 hostages. Okay.
249 or something.
Held captive. Israel would have had just suffered the worst massacre since the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And you expected just not to do anything.
Yeah. And by the way, I honestly think some politicians were saying immediately to Israel, have restraint, don't go into Gaza.
Yeah.
World leaders were telling them, don't go into Gaza. Yeah. And just think about that. I mean, Israel's in one of the toughest neighborhoods. Well, it probably is the toughest neighborhood. It's surrounded by nations that want to wipe it out. It's in a unique situation. I don't think any other country is surrounded by nations that just want to wipe it out. You cannot negotiate with Hamas. Hamas is a genocidal entity that wants to wipe out the Jewish people. The Palestinians overwhelmingly support the genocide of the Jews, the removal of the Jews. The Islamic world overwhelmingly supports going to war against the Jews to bring about the last day, according to the Hadiths, according to, the words of Muhammad. So they have a viewpoint which is anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, anti-Christian, anti-God. Yeah. There's no way that Christian nations can make peace with that ideology. There's no way that Jews can make peace with that ideology. So there is no hope for, a two-state solution. There's no hope for peace with Hamas. There's no hope for negotiations and so forth. Hamas will literally just try and rebuild in order to carry out their plans again.
Yes, and they wouldn't have had to rebuild because they wouldn't have had... They would have had an incentive for further attacks.
Yeah.
They had the intent of further attacks. They would do it again and again. They said that
Yeah,
themselves.
a million October 7th, one of them said. We're going to do a million October 7th.
You had an armed Hezbollah, a strong Hezbollah who would have been looking at Hamas and thinking, actually, that worked.
Yeah, and before the Beeper attack, they were planning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you got Iran, nuclear capable and also emboldened. Like, all of Israel's enemies would have been emboldened.
Yeah.
Israel could not and should not have allowed that.
Yeah.
And so,
exactly,
you know, and that's why Britain recognizing a Palestinian state, sorry, just to full circle, is rewarding terrorism.
Exactly. I mean, the result of October 7th is the UK, France, Canada, Australia, and others saying that they're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Recognize a state which is predominantly run right now by terror-supporting groups, terrorist groups. I mean, just this week, Mahmoud Abbas came and visited 10 Downing Street, met with Keir Starmer. Both of them agreed that Hamas could have no role and, no role in future Palestinian state. And my saying is, Mahmoud Abbas should not have a role in a future Palestinian state. Keir Starmer shouldn't have a role in recognising
that man
all of it is
should
wrong.
not be allowed to set foot in number 10.
No.
Nor Mahmoud Abbas.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thank you. Thank you very much. So we're not political at CUFI. just to explain that.
Yeah, that was a joke. That was a joke. Yes, but
maybe.
Honestly, Abbas is like with Mahmoud Abbas, he is admittedly the funder of the Munich massacre, the 1972 massacre of Israeli Olympians in Munich, where Palestinian terrorists came in and murdered them in front of the world, and the whole world carried on as if nothing happened while Israel went back home and mourned its dead. The way the world has treated Israel is diabolical. Like, I cannot imagine what God thinks of all this, because he must be looking at how the people he loves are being treated so cruelly by the world, not just recently. This war didn't start on October 7th. All the anti-Israel people keep telling us that. Didn't start on October 7th. It started in 1948 when Israel genocided the... No. It started back with, Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael, right? It started back then. If you want to understand the truth of this conflict, go back to the Bible. Understand what Islam says. Understand what the Bible says. Understand what God's view in this is. This is not a war between Israel and the Palestinians. It is a war between good and evil, light versus darkness, God versus Satan. This is honestly, it's the war of our time. Israel is the epicenter of the world, of the universe. It is the place where Jesus, Messiah, is returning. And as Christians, if we do not understand this, we are missing. We can't be faithful watchmen, faithful Christians, faithful to God without being faithful to his people and to his word. Like, it is God who said, that he will establish in Genesis 12 verse 3. We always say, I'll bless those who bless you. But actually, Genesis 12 verse 2 to 3 mentions about God establishing Israel as a nation. I will set you up as a people, and I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. And through you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And throughout Scripture, you cannot read the Bible without seeing God's heart for Israel. So we can't be faithful watchmen. We can't be faithful to God's word. We can't be faithful Christians without having a full understanding of both the biblical reasons why we support Israel, but also of understanding this conflict and understanding how it matters on the world stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll be covering more of these things over the next few. Well, continuing, we'll keep trying to. Actually, you mentioned 1948. I think sometime we should cover 1948 in the podcast and debunk the Nakba lies.
Yes,
and
definitely.
give the actual true side, or the other side of the story, which is the true side, of course.
Yep.
So, just going back onto headlines, misleading headlines. Greta, of course, currently is sailing somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea.
Yep.
And The Guardian says Gaza aid flotilla carrying Greta Thunberg reports second drone attack on boat at Tunisian port. Wait, what is this? Does this mean that Greta Thunberg is under attack? Is Israel firing its very valuable drones that it reserves for Hamas terrorists on Greta Thunberg? No. Actually, The Guardian then explains that, according to Tunisian officials, it was not a drone at all. And Guardian had, in fact, just used this headline because it stirs up hate towards Israel.
There you go. So, yeah. Yes, Greta, she's on her floating circus at the moment. A flotilla
But it's in flames.
Yeah,
what's happened? It's the barbecue.
Yeah. So, the vegan barbecue. So Greta basically is part of this propaganda against Israel. She has joined the anti-Semitic hate mob, after being all about climate change. She's now all about hating Israel. There are two alleged drone attacks against this flotilla. Neither of them are true, but it really is interesting because it paints the sort of narrative that we're seeing throughout all of this. Headlines, like you've just said, that distort reality, them lying to our faces when it's clear as day that they are responsible for these things. Basically, the first time there was a drone that hit Greta's flotilla, one of the members of one of the boats fired a flare gun up into the air. The flare came back down, set a generator on fire, and caused a fire on board the boat, which caused damage. Immediately after that happened, even though the crew knew exactly what happened, they started filming themselves saying, "We've been hit by an Israeli drone. We've been damaged." They are...
Actually, it was one of their flares.
One of their flares, yes. And I'd say, even though
how unfortunate, though, to hit the generator.
I know, it's so funny. Like, you couldn't even write it, like, as that happening. Like, because they were just firing it, like, just to fire it, I guess. And it ended up landing on their boat. And actually, flare guns are quite good at firing something straight up in the air and it coming straight back down to where it...
You mean it did what it's supposed to do?
Yes, because that is literally what they're designed for. Because obviously, if there is a flare that goes up and they want to locate the person, if you fire that flare gun and it goes 200 meters that way, when you're in the middle of the ocean, you're not going to be seen. So the flare gun is designed that way. Anyway,
I see.
Well, as far as I understand, I've never fired a flare gun. But anyway, but I have seen videos, by the way, this week of other people firing flare guns and it landing right where they fired it, because it looks like it's by
something you do every week.
Just watch videos of flare guns. So anyway, but going back to Greta though.
Yeah.
So first of all, they didn't get hit by a drone, but they immediately said, "We've been hit by a drone." They then did interviews telling everybody, "We've been hit by a drone. Israel's trying to destroy us." Bearing in mind, they're in Tunisia at the moment. Tunisia is like hundreds of miles away from Israel.
Yes.
If Israel flew drones and attacked in Tunisian airspace, the whole world would condemn Israel for invading Tunisia's airspace and carrying out a strike on people in Tunisia, like, what we've been hearing about with Doha, which we'll talk about in a second. Also, Tunisia themselves, who hate Israel and are at war with Israel, or not at war with Israel, sorry, they are enemies of Israel. They
don't have diplomatic ties.
No diplomatic ties. They hate Israel, right? Tunisia. And by the way,
that's another way of putting it.
Yeah. And in the past, by the way, Israel has carried out strikes in Tunisia to take out Munich massacre masterminds.
It's a large Jewish community in Tunisia. Not large, sorry. It's significant. It's very small, very old, a very old community, which have this very important heritage site, which is part of where a number of Jews,
I didn't know that.
Are located in Tunisia.
Yeah. So but I didn't know that. But the thing is, Tunisia themselves have come out and actually said this wasn't true. So if they wanted to smear Israel, I mean, they've condemned Israel at every other point. They would have done that. So what I'm trying to say is it's very similar to what we see in Gaza. Because, for example, with Hamas, when they actually had rockets and rocket launchers, they would constantly fire rockets at Israel, accidentally kill their own people in Gaza because 20%
because they're also not great
at firing things.
Accurate at firing things, are they?
Yeah, I was actually hearing someone say Greta should put herself up for nomination for new Hamas leader because she's got the firing things that end up hitting themselves down to a T. She's got the lying down to a T because she blamed Israel for something they did to themselves. She obviously hates Israel already, which Hamas already hates Israel. She hangs out with terrorists, all the rest of it. So all I'm trying to say is it just is kind of one of these things where it's clearly a nonsensical story. It's an absolute farce, The whole flotilla is a complete joke, what Greta's doing.
It is.
But it just shows how the media, with no integrity, is taking all the false information, spinning it into headlines which paint Israel as bad, when really what they should say is, stupid idiots accidentally set their own boat on fire.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? So, yeah, I've stole Greta's dream. I don't know.
Yeah. But it is everywhere. I mean, I'm just looking here on the Google search, all about these rockets.
Drones.
Sorry, the drones.
That don't exist. Yeah.
BBC, Greta Thunberg's Gaza flotilla hit by drone, organisers claim. I mean, they put organisers claim, but you don't even see that.
Rubbish.
It's just a very crafty way
of
crafting a headline in order to mislead.
I mean, we should just start making these things up. Like,
well, we could do, couldn't we?
We could just make up headlines. Expert says, the expert is you, Alastair, and just whatever you say becomes a headline, and we just pump out headlines.
That's how farcical it is. I mean, we like to think we have more integrity.
We definitely have more integrity than the BBC,
and that's why it's important to support news sources which do have make every effort to have integrity. But I'm sorry, but these are not just ignorant headline forming; they are completely intent on shaping a narrative.
Yeah, exactly, and ultimately as well, the media is choosing to highlight Greta. Before Greta got on the boat, the media was there. While she's on the boat, they're there. Like, they don't have to cover this story. No. There's many times where
there's many more yachts in the med.
Exactly. But there's also many times where, like beforehand, where there would be a protest. For example, like they're not covering pro-Israel protests, they cover anti-Israel protests. They were covering, they cover certain viewpoints protests, but not other ones, which are sometimes bigger than theirs. And they never show it on the media.
Yes.
Because they don't want people to know that people support.
No, you're absolutely right.
To the message.
You're absolutely right. We're seeing more of that.
Yeah.
And there was actually a very large demonstration against anti-Semitism in London on Sunday. And, you would notice a very difference in the coverage of what took place on Sunday compared with the pro-Palestinian protest, which took place on the Saturday. The other big difference, of course, was that over 800 of those protesters were arrested at the pro-Palestinian
supporting an outlawed terror group.
Yes. And some of them also physically assaulting police officers. But that's another story for another time. Just one thing, I'll just Google search very quickly. The Tunisian Jews on the island of Jerba, DJERBA, are one of the last remaining Jewish communities in the Arab world. Their history stretches back to the time of the Punic Empire, and so very ancient part. And the El Griba synagogue on Jerba is a significant site for the Jewish diaspora, attracting thousands of pilgrims for one of the Jewish festivals. So there you go. So we need to pray for the this is what I'm trying to say is we need to pray for the small Jewish community in Tunisia, because
the Jewish community outside of Israel in the Middle East has largely been wiped out, forced displacement and so forth. The real ethnic cleansing in the Middle East was of Jews from all the different countries around there, and it's something, again, the world has not even cared at all about the Jewish community. They're highlighting fake Nakbas and fake ethnic cleansings and fake genocides and blaming the Jews, when actually the Jews have been the victims. I was going to say the victims far more than they've been the oppressors. Actually, they're not the oppressors. They literally have only been the victims in this. It's only now that Israel actually has a state that is able to stand up for itself.
And has to defend
itself. And yet every time it stands up for itself, it is condemned. And I mean, we're out of time, but...
We are out of time. We don't even have time to talk about the strikes in Qatar against the meeting of Hamas leadership. But we have to acknowledge it because it's very significant.
Yes. At the moment, we don't know. At the time of filming this, it's Wednesday, the 10th of
September.
Yes.
It's not gone that long. Yes. We've not been talking that long, have we?
I always said October. But we're not sure how effective that strike was. Obviously, the world is condemning Israel. There is a very different vibe to what is happening now compared to what happened in 2011, when they took out Osama bin Laden. So just so people know, when Osama bin Laden was taken out, it was a strike by Israel without any Security Council permission on the sovereign nation of Pakistan, where Osama bin Laden...
Sorry. The United States took out bin Laden.
That's what I said, yeah.
You said Israel.
Oh, sorry.
I think you meant... I think you're doing a UK aren't committing genocide in
UK,
Gaza.
Yes,
moment.
I did. Yeah.
How do you?
We're both making these mistakes there.
But let's just clarify, just for the conspiracy theorists who might be watching this.
Okay. Israel was not responsible.
Israel was not responsible. However, America acted on behalf of all of us.
Yes, they did. And they took out Osama bin Laden 2011 in Pakistan. The UN General Secretary said it was, I got a quote from him actually, he said it was a watershed moment for the world, and he praised the elimination of Osama bin Laden, even though, according to all the laws of international law today, if it was today's world, America would be condemned for breaching international law.
But not according to international law. According to today's mindset.
Today's twisted view on international law.
But can you just clarify that? Because I think this is really important.
Yeah.
According to international law,
okay,
it is a legitimate target if you deliberately strike a known terrorist, proven terrorist stronghold, even within a sovereign state. Is that you understand?
I mean, I'm not an international law expert, but
you could be for $30.
Exactly. Okay. So I probably have more information then. So. But but no, it's one of those things where Hamas is being protected by Qatar. Qatar is one of the main funders of Hamas.
Yes.
They are what's the word? Harboring the terrorist leaders. Technically, I mean, obviously Israel would never do this because Israel doesn't want war with Qatar.
No.
But basically, Qatar is at fault, just like Iran was at fault for its actions with Hezbollah, right?
Yes.
According to international law, I think Israel was okay. But the problem they've got is the world doesn't see it that way. The world is condemning Israel for trying to take out terrorist leaders. Bearing in mind, back in when the 1972 Munich massacre took place, there were different leaders of the Black September group who were taken out. For example, one of them was in Tunisia, taken out by a bomb. Again, the world condemned Israel, but actually Israel was taking out a terrorist who was trying to wipe out more Jews and who had carried out this atrocity in Munich. So, and the thing is, we've done it in different countries. For example, America did it when it took out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. It didn't tell Pakistan beforehand. It didn't tell any other nation beforehand. It just took out Osama bin Laden.
Yes.
And the world praised America for it. Not everyone.
And
Corbyn didn't,
No. Yeah, that's another.
That's story for another day.
We might be talking about him quite a bit in the future.
Yeah.
But also, Pakistan didn't retaliate.
No.
Why? Because Pakistan understood the justified reasons about taking out bin Laden, even though we can,
and they were sort of helping him out, probably.
There's questions about Pakistan's integrity. However, the leadership. However, it understood. It understood the game. It understood the setting. It understood the motivations behind it.
Yep.
And actually, you would hope that Qatar would also understand that. I mean, as an ally, a close ally of the United States, important ally, and a country that has a tremendous financial tie to the West, which may or may not be a good thing, but
not a good thing. And I think that, by the way,
but that relationship should be able to hold intact. And actually, Israel taking out Hamas is actually, at the end of the day, creating a safer, or would be potentially creating a safer Middle East.
Yeah, if it was successful, because ultimately we don't think it's successful. Obviously, President Trump has come out saying that he's not happy that this took place. There is word that Israel told America immediately told Qatar, and that may have given Hamas a good enough, because Qatar helping Hamas,
yes,
these terrorists. And by the way, like, if we look at this, Qatar is the largest funder of Hamas.
Yes,
Qatar has the same, maybe not exactly the same ideology as Hamas, but they have a similar viewpoint of disliking Israel and wanting to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, right?
Yes.
The problem we have in this country and in the West is that Qatar is one of the largest funders of, for example, it's the largest funder of universities in the United Kingdom. It is one of the largest funders of news agencies in the United Kingdom. It probably owns a couple of politicians in the United Kingdom and definitely in America. So they're of course not going to say anything bad against Qatar. America has its largest base in the Middle East in Qatar, right? There is a massive amount of money that is split between the West and Qatar, and no one wants to mess that up because money is, a powerful thing in this world.
Yeah.
And so...
I could ask so many more questions about what you just said about the Qatari influence.
Well, yes. They own a few football clubs, things like that.
But we probably do need to bring this bring to an end. However, before we do, is there anything else you wanted to add on that point?
I just want to say, on that point, I just want to say, we do need to pray about this situation.
Yes.
I think this is one of those things, actually, which will, especially if it isn't successful, it will definitely call into question whether it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I think we need to pray for Israel because Israel is increasingly, becoming the enemy of the world, really. A lot of people are hating Israel.
The
world is making Israel an enemy. And the thing is, Israel is literally just trying to stop the people from, Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization that wants to wipe out every Jew on planet Earth.
Yes.
And Israel's trying to stop that. And the world is trying to stop Israel from winning. The world didn't try and stop America from winning against Osama bin Laden. The world didn't try and stop, NATO when it went against Libya and took out Gaddafi against a sovereign nation and took out the leader of that nation. No one complained. That was okay according to the international law. But when Israel defends itself from terrorists, Israel's condemned.
Yep.
Every single step of the way. So pray for Israel because Israel is under massive pressure.
Definitely. No, great. Thank you. So it is the 100th episode that we've come to the end of now. So just to mark it out.
Oh dear.
I'm
not eating this on air.
Sorry?
I'm not going to eat this live on air. This isn't a food challenge, is it?
No. So we do have a few party cakes, cupcakes. So I thought we might just be able to celebrate. And there we are.
Well, thank you very much.
Not all for you. We'll share them.
We'll
share them, and also with Andy behind the camera as well. We'll let him have some. But no, we want to thank you for standing with us for not just these 100 episodes of the CUFI UK podcast, but also every single. This is 10 years as well. We recently commemorated here at CUFI UK, and we want to thank him for his thank God for his faithfulness in enabling us to do this, and we want to thank you for your support. However long you've known about CUFI UK, maybe it's only just recently, or maybe it's been for a long period of time, but I hope you can recognise our heart to stand with Israel and the Jewish people and the very important need that there is for CUFI in this nation. It's important to stand strong now more than ever. And we hope that we can encourage you to do that personally, wherever you are, in whatever situation you're in. And we feel very much that through your support that you are standing with us to enable CUFI to do much, much more. So thank you very much. If you're not already a supporter by donating to CUFI UK, then please consider doing so at www.cufi.org.uk/donate. Also, we are now in September and we are approaching very nearly the start of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah.
Yep.
And we feature all of the Jewish festivals in our 16-month calendar. This is the latest one, out now on the CUFI UK store, which is at the link on the screen or in the description. And the title of this year's calendar is The Lord Reigns. It starts in September 2025, which we're in now, all the way through to December 2026. and each month has a wonderful picture from Israel, including a scripture, as well as the Israel and UK national holidays and the Jewish festivals and Christian festivals as well. Plus, all of the Torah readings for each week as well are in the side column there. By purchasing this, you are supporting the work of CUFI UK, and it will also make a wonderful gift as well to anyone else you know who loves Israel. So please do take a look at that on our store. We also have some special packages which include a mug,
a candle,
a candle, sorry,
yeah, and some cards, a beautiful package, which is with a discount as well. So please do take a look at that. And before Alex and I took into these cupcakes, thank you for listening to this podcast. And until next time, let us continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. Bye-bye.